Hey everyone, welcome to week 5 of Algebra 1 SOL Prep. This week we're going to be studying slope, graphs, and writing equations. Please refer to the notes that you received to go along with this video. We're going to be starting with the first example, and we'll be referring back to the boxed notes section of your handout as we work out the problems. The first problem says which number is closest in value to the slope of line n, this line. Well, there's this box of information on your notes that shows us, reminds us really, how to find the slope of a graphed line. What you're supposed to do is you find two intersection points right here and right here. They are lines, points on the line that fall exactly on the intersection points of the grid so that they're easy to read. And then you measure the rise, measure the run, and that fraction becomes your slope. So let's look for that in our problem. I see a good intersection point right here, and I see another one here. Remembering that slope is rise over run, we are going to find our rise first. So that would be 1, 2, 3 positive, because we went up, positive 3, and then we're going to find our run, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Positive 6, because we also went the positive direction right. So our slope here is the fraction rise on top 3 over run in the bottom 6. But this fraction needs to be simplified. You can use your calculator for that if you want. 3 divided by 6, and then you hit math enter to turn that into a simplified fraction of 1/2. So your answer here would be option A, 1/2. In the next example, they ask us which equation best represents line W, and that refers to this box of information that you have on your notes. Keep in mind that you're going to use this format of an equation when you're trying to come up with the equation from the graph, where the first blank will be the number for your slope, and the second blank will be the number for your y-intercept. So we are going to find first the slope of our line W here. Here's a good intersection point that I can use for my slope. Here's another one. So we're going to find our rise over run. Let's count these out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And because I am going downwards, that would be a negative 8. And then we're going to find our run. 1, 2, 3. This time I'm moving to the right, so that is a positive 3. So using these two numbers, we create our slope fraction, rise on top, the negative 8, run in the bottom. Now we're going to identify our y-intercept. The y-intercept is the point where your line, this line, intercepts your y-axis, this line. And where they cross is right here. That is the value negative 4. So your y-intercept here is equal to negative 4. What that means is that in the blanks for our equation, we are supposed to have a negative 8/3 for your slope and a negative 4 for your y-intercept. So your equation should really look like this, negative 8/3 x minus 4. Let's see which one of our options matches that. In the first option A, the y-intercept matches, but the slope does not match. So option A is not it. In option B, our slope matches the negative 8/3, but your y-intercept does not, because it's positive here and it should be negative. So option B also not a possible answer. In option C, the equation is not given to us in slope-intercept format, so we need to rewrite it. To rewrite it into slope-intercept format, we need to have this by itself on the left-hand side of the equation, and all these other things need to go away. So let's start by canceling out the 8x by subtracting 8x from both sides. That cancels this out, and you have now the 3y is equal to negative 8x minus 12. Keep in mind that this 12 is negative, so you may not forget that negative, minus 12. You still want to have just the y by itself with the equal sign, so this 3 needs to be canceled out by dividing it out. What I divide on one side, I have to divide everywhere else, so everything else gets divided by 3. And now you have the y equals, here you have negative 8 over 3 with the x, and negative 12 divided by 3 is a negative 4. If you notice, this equation matches the equation that we were looking for, so our option here is option C. If option C would not have matched, I would have needed to rewrite option D and see if that one matches. Thankfully, we don't need to do that. Let's look at the next one. What is the slope of the line through points negative 6, 9, and 2, negative 3? There's a section on your notes that reminds you how to do these types of problems. You're going to have a formula to calculate slope. So what we're going to do is we need to label our x's and y's because our formula uses our x's and y's. So we're going to call this x and y, x and y. Notice that the formula has a subtract on top, subtract on the bottom. Make sure you don't forget those subtract symbols when you're working with your equation. So I'm going to be subtracting in this direction from left point to right point. So first I'm going to be subtracting my y's on the numerator. So it's going to be this 9, it's going to be this negative 3, and this subtraction symbol that was in the middle is still there. In the bottom I'm going to be subtracting the x's, so I'm going to be subtracting this x, negative 6, I'm going to be subtracting this 2, and in the middle there is a subtraction symbol. So 9 minus negative 3 would be, and if you need the calculator for that you can do that, 9 minus negative 3, you get a 12. And then negative 6 minus 2, you get a negative 8, which you will then simplify in your calculator. You're going to put the 12 divided by the negative 8. You're going to get a decimal. Remember, you can do math, enter, enter, for the fully simplified fraction of negative 3 halves. Negative 3 halves. In the SOL, you will need to type this sort of information into a box like this one. So you will have to type the negative, then the number 3, then the slash to represent the division symbol, and then the 2. That is how you would type that in. In the next problem, which line is parallel to the line 3x plus 4y is equal to 12? This box of information on your notes reminds you how to do that. If the line given to you is given in standard form, you will rewrite it into slope-intercept form, because what you're going to be looking for is the option that has the same slope. So you will need to rewrite it into slope-intercept format so that that slope becomes revealed to you next to the x. So let's rewrite the given equation in slope-intercept format. Remember that what that means is that this should be by itself and everything else on that side needs to be canceled out. So let's start by canceling out the 3x, so you subtract the 3x from both sides. And that means that these are gone, and you have the 4y, the equal sign. You have the negative 3x first, because you know the x term goes first. And then this 12 is positive, so you're going to write plus 12. Then we remind ourselves again that there should only be the y equals, so this 4 needs to be divided out. What you divide on one side, you divide everywhere else. So these 4's get canceled out, and y is equal to negative 3/4 x plus, you will have to divide 12 by 4 to get a 3. So now we have revealed the slope that we're looking for. Parallel means same slope m. So which one of these equations has the same slope that you got here? That would be option C. Negative 3/4 has the same slope, so that is your answer. Remember that if you don't really remember what to do after you have rewritten your equation, you can always get your calculator, graph your equation. You can do y equals, graph your equation, that's negative, and then you do green y, enter to do your fraction. 3/4, then the x plus 3, and you can graph that to see what it's supposed to look like. And then without removing that graph, you can enter each one of these graphs in y2. For example, if you enter the first option A into y2 and you graph those, you're going to see that A clearly is not parallel to the given equation, because parallel means they go in the same direction. So you can keep, you can delete the one that you already know doesn't work and enter the second one. That is option B. When you graph that one, those also don't show parallel, so you go back to y equals, clear out the second equation, type in option C. When you have option C, you hit graph, wait to see for those graphs. And you can see that when you typed in option C, the lines do look parallel. So that's another way to help confirm which one would be your answer. In the next one, which graph represents the equation negative 1/2 x plus 3? Remember that this is your y-intercept, so your graph should be crossing along the y-axis at the level of positive 3, and that's not what happens in A, so that's not an option. Letter B does cross at positive 3, so I'm not scratching that one out. So does option C, but option D crosses way down here, so D is not option. How do we pick between B and C? We refer to the slope. The slope should be negative 1/2. What that means is that from that y-intercept, you should be going down 1 and then right 3. The 1 is down because it's negative. So if I use option B and I go down 1 and then right 2, I'm going away from the line, so B is not it. But if in option C I go down 1 and then to the right 2, I am falling on the line. So my option here is going to be option C. What is an equation of a line that passes through points 0, 1 and 6, negative 1? Here's some information from your notes that reminds you how to do this. Of course, you could use your points and figure out your slope using the same formula that we used in example problem 3, and then match that slope to each one of these. But if you don't want to do that, there is this option. Because your calculator up here above the graph button here, it provides you a table of the points of each line you graph, you can go and graph your first equation, y is equal to 5x minus 1. Just press the y equals button and type 5x minus 1. And then to access the table for that line, you press the second button and then the graph button so that you access the table value, and you look for the point 0, 1, and this has 0 with a negative 1, does not match what they're telling me I should have with a 0, so I can scratch out option A and move on to option B. Go to y equals, clear your equation, and try the next one. Notice that this one is not in slope-intercept form, but we have already rewritten 2 equations, so it should be following the same steps. Let's see how quickly you can do it now. Remember that the steps to rewrite are pretty much the same. You're going to be canceling out the x term first, which is what we have been doing so far in each one. You have 3y, you write the x term, then you write the remainder term. It is positive, so I'm writing plus 3. And then the second step is always to divide by the coefficient of y everywhere. So y is going to be equal to x over 3 plus 3 divided by 3 is a 1. So you can go to your calculator and press green y. Enter for your fraction x over 3 plus 1. And you go to your table, second table. Here the 0 is with the 1, which is what they're asking me to do. Let's see if the other one works. 6 and negative 1. If you go down here, you see that 6 is matched up with a 3. So option B does not work because didn't have both points matching. You can go to option C, try that one, clear it out, and you enter negative the fraction 1/3. Then you put an x. Please don't forget to put the x, that's very important. Plus 1, second table. Let's see if you find those matching points. 0 is with 1 like I need it. 6 is with a negative 1 also the way I need it, so I can select option C. The next problem, which is the equation for the line that passes through this given point and has a slope of 4? The procedure is going to be very similar. You're going to be entering each one of these options into the y equals part of your calculator, go to the table, and check to see if this point is showing up. You're also going to be checking to make sure that each one of your equations also has a slope of 4. In this case, this has a slope of 4, this has a slope of 4, this has a slope of 4, but this has a slope of negative 4. That's not it. So we can immediately scratch out option B and work with the other ones. Let's try entering this first option, A. You press the y equals 4x minus 1/2, green y, enter for the fractions. And you're going to go to the table. You're going to notice something about this table. Notice that you need an x value of 1/2, but your table only goes in increments of whole numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3. You would need the 1/2 that is between the 0 and the 1. Here's how you can change that. You see up here it says tables, TBL set, table set. It tells you how you're going to set your table to show whatever you want it to show. So you're going to press second and that button, and it's giving you here that it's going to go in increments of 1. You want it to go in increments or in steps of 1/2. So you can enter 1 divided by 2 for the 1/2, and now the table is going to be going in every halves, so you will have the information you need. Go back to your table, second table, and notice that now we have the 0.5, which is the same as the 1/2. They're telling us that the 1/2 should be paired up with a -2, but in this table the 1/2 is paired up with a 1.5, so that's not our option. And we try our next equation. I'm going to try option C, y is equal to 4x minus 3. So 4x minus 3, and you're going to go to your table. Here the 0.5 is paired up with a negative 1. It should be 1/2 paired up with a negative 2. So that is not our option. Let's make sure option D works. 4x minus 4. Go to your table. And here the 0.5 is paired up with a negative 2, which is what they're asking us for. So our answer is option D. In problem 8, they're asking you which line is perpendicular to the line negative 2x plus 8y is equal to 16. The first we need to remember is that perpendicular means that the lines cross each other at a 90-degree angle. Doesn't matter how they're sitting as long as there's a 90-degree angle. The symbol for perpendicular is the T at a 90-degree angle. So if we could graph this equation that's given to us in our calculator, and then graph all the other ones in the same calculator to see which ones cross at a perpendicular angle, we would know our answer. So the first we need to do is take this equation and get it ready for graphing. It needs to be in y equals form. So what that means is that if the equation looks like this, we need to have just the y equals here. Everything else here is canceled out. So first thing we do is cancel out the x term on both sides. This is gone. You have the 8y. Always the x term first and then the number, so that we have it in the format that's familiar to us. Then this 8 gets divided out, and what you divide in one place, you have to divide everywhere. Not just on one spot on one side and on the other, but everywhere. And if you do not remember how to simplify a fraction, get your calculator, because we're going to simplify this fraction here. So you enter the 2 and divide it by 8, and of course it's math, enter, enter. Math, enter, enter. That is the fraction 1/4. So y is equal to 1/4 x plus 16 divided by 8 is a 2. So really the equation that's given to us is this one. You're going to go to your calculator, hit the y equals, and type it in your first y1. Once you have that there, what you need to do is enter all of these other 4 options to see which one is perpendicular to what's going to show up as a blue line. So let's enter them. There's option A, there's option B, option C, and option D. All of them typed in there together with the original equation on top. You're going to hit the graph button and all the graphs are going to show up. Your original line here is in blue. All the other ones show up after. So once all the graphs are there, you're going to make sure you're zoomed in correctly. So you want to zoom into a square. So that is the 5th one down. You want it to be a square so that all the dimensions on all sides are the same, so that there's no warping of the image because it's stretched to one side or the other. So once all the graphs are drawn correctly, you can see that the one line that looks exactly perpendicular to the blue line is the green line. So when you go back, that was actually the last one down. Option D. So option D would be our answer. And another way to confirm it is that perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes of each other. That means that they are the fraction flipped over. So 1/4 becomes 4/1. And also change the sign. So that's negative reciprocal, and that's exactly what you see here, a -4. -4 is the same thing as -4/1. So it also helps confirm your answer. Last example, which equation represents the horizontal line? So horizontals from side to side, the horizontal line passing through this given point. Your notes remind you how these work. For horizontal lines, that would be that acronym HOI, and even the H of HOI reminds you that it is horizontal in this direction. And it should be an equation that starts with y equals. So you immediately scratch out C and D because those do not start with y, they start with x. So those are not it. And you have two options that start with y. You look at your given point, remind yourself that the first number is x, the second number is y. Well, in your given point, what does y equal? It equals 1. So your equation should say that y equals 1. Your option is B. Thanks for watching.